Please listen carefully.
Hello, John here. I've had a few questions from friends about this electric car malarkey. I've had this car just under a month now. It'll be a month on the 22nd of November. I picked it up on the 22nd of October. It's a pre-registered Nissan Leaf Tekna. That's the second generation of the Leaf, with the significant number of small refinements, improvements over the first generation. What I'm going to do is just go on a little drive. Going to head down to Burton Dasset, hopefully, and yeah, just talk through a few frequently asked questions about living with an electric car. Okay, let's go. First thing to do, foot on the foot brake, and then the start button. The car starts up. Now, I fully charged this overnight. Wouldn't normally fully charge it, but I did so for this journey, and it's reporting 89 miles range on a full charge. If I put it into eco mode, that goes up to 94. Now, I've had more. I've had a higher mileage available, according to that. I've had over 100 miles. It seems to be very much weather dependent. If it's cooler, the range decreases. If it's colder. Right, I'm going to get moving anyway. So I'm taking a little trip out down to Burton Dasset, which is a nice part of the county here. Some very nice views, so I'm going to drive down there and just talk a little bit about living with the car, because I get a lot of the same sort of questions come up time and time again, and there are numerous other similar videos to this, but I just thought I'd do one as well. I would like to try and be a little bit more honest than some people are about, you know, there's some idealists out there, and that's great, because I am kind of an idealist about electric cars. But I think you should be under no illusion that they're suitable for everybody. I don't think they are. And to be fair, most advocates do sort of say that. The obvious thing that comes up is, well, what happens when I decide I need to drive to Scotland? You know, what about these 300-400 mile journeys I have to do? And the honest answer to that is, unless you've got loads of time and you're happy to stop at rapid chargers, it's not the right car for that. You might want to do that very infrequently, almost for the fun of it, if you fancy it. But certainly, unless I had loads of spare time and wanted to do it for the fun of doing it, I wouldn't undertake a 400 mile journey, 400 or 500 mile journey in an electric car with this range. I'll come on to that in a minute. If I had a Tesla Model S, or any of the upcoming derivations of that car, I wouldn't hesitate to do it, because in those circumstances you're looking at a considerably larger range, of over 250 miles, up to 300 I believe, and in those circumstances then absolutely, you know, you shouldn't be driving 300 miles without stopping anyway. It's not good for you. So with that kind of car, certainly. But with this particular car, this car is a Nissan Leaf. It's a Tekna It's a Nissan Leaf 13 registration Tekna, which is the top of the three ranges of the Leaf. The entry level is the Vizia. It's called the Vizia. The second level is the Ascenta, and then the Tekna is the top level one. The Tekna has leather seats, all the gadgets, the navigation system, car wings, some of which the middle level, the Ascenta, has, but the Vizia does not. Obviously, you would pay considerably more for the Tekna were you to buy it new. I didn't buy this car new. I bought it pre-registered. It was a pre-registered car owned by apparently Nissan, so I guess it was a demonstrator or some such thing. It had 5,000 miles on the clock when I bought it, and it was round about £10,000 less than it would cost new. Some interesting trafficage going on there. Yeah, it was around about £10,000 less than it would be new. So I've been looking at the Nissan Leaf as a prospective car to own for, well, since they were released, really. Electric car advocate Robert Llewellyn, who does a great has a great YouTube channel. Just give Robert a plug, or Bobby Lou a plug for his YouTube channel, whose name I've forgotten for the time being. He does one called Carpool, which is him travelling. Was basically doing a trip with various known people, well, some slightly less well known, but nevertheless very entertaining sort of informal chat videos where he gives them a lift somewhere. And the other one he does, whose name eludes me but will come back to me shortly, is basically around well, in particular electric cars, but not just electric cars. It's around renewable energy sources and such like. He's done lots of very interesting videos. Go and have a look at Robert's channel. Yeah, so I've been watching Robert Llewellyn's videos for quite some time, and decided that an electric car was something I would definitely be interested in, but there was no way I could afford one financially when they were first released. So I decided that it would unfortunately have to be a case of sit back and wait until you could get them pre-owned, pre-registered, and then take it from there, have a look at them. So fortunately now it's reached the stage where you can pick up second-hand Leafs I should say, I suppose. Leafs or Leaves. Well, a Leaf is a trade name, so let's go with Leafs. You can pick them up second-hand for not unreasonable prices. Now, there are two choices when you buy a Leaf. You can buy one with the battery included. Now, the battery is quite a significant cost in terms of the price of the car, which is what makes electric cars expensive, really. So when you're talking about buying a new electric car, the battery cost is a fairly sizable chunk of that, and it makes a lot of people think that's not something I want to do because it's a large upfront cost. Yes, it is a large upfront cost, but if you factor in the savings over the lifetime of the car in fuel, it's not difficult to do the mathematics and do the math and work out that it's quite a considerable saving over the lifetime of the car. However, if you're dissuaded from buying one by the upfront cost of buying the car with the battery, there is another option Nissan offer, which is to buy the car and lease the battery. Now, the advantage of leasing the battery is that well, it's fairly obvious. You never own the battery outright, but you lease it over a longer term, and you pay effectively a rental charge, a monthly rental charge, upwards of £70 a month in the UK at the current time. Now, whether you decide to go for the lease battery model or purchasing the battery outright would depend on a couple of things. It would depend on whether you want to keep the cost of buying the car down quite considerably initially, but also it would depend on how much you trust the battery or batteries, because the battery pack is actually a series of batteries, lithium-ion batteries. And if you have concerns over the reliability of those, what their sort of longevity is going to be, then you might want to go down the leasing route, because if the battery system develops a fault, any of the cells fail, such like, then you would be entitled to a new battery pack, obviously free of charge, because at that stage it's faulty and you're only renting it. Now that may appeal as well to people who do a large amount of commuting. I don't actually commute. I'm in the fortunate or unfortunate, depending how you look at it, position of working from home, which means that I don't do a tremendous amount of miles in the car. I also own a motorbike, so when it's not icy and it's not hideously rainy, I tend to use a motorbike. If I'm travelling on my own, obviously family is a different matter. So the car's used predominantly for family trips, local family trips, or if we travel up to visit family, which is about a 100-mile trip. Now, in terms of the range of the Leaf, this model, certainly it depends on the weather. That's the first factor. If it's cold, the range decreases. I've noticed that myself already within the first 4 weeks of ownership. So I have got into the car with 100% battery charge, and I've had just over 100 miles. When I got in today, again 100% charge, I had 94. So it does vary, and I'm sure when it gets colder that may decrease further. That's on 100% charge. Now I say 100% charge. Normally day to day you don't actually charge the battery to 100%, for the simple reason that, well, it's advised that you don't do that. In order to prolong the life of a lithium-ion battery, well, certainly these lithium-ion batteries, it's better not to charge 200% constantly all the time. So normal day to day, you would tend to charge to 80%. If you planned a longer journey, for peace of mind, you may want to fully charge up to 100. But the manual advises, and users advise, that you do not charge 200% all the time on a regular basis. Although I'm fully aware there are owners who do exactly that and have apparently had no issues with battery degradation. So you take your choice, really. On a normal 80% charge, you tend to be looking around 70 miles. In terms of range, and that's quite reasonable for day-to-day stuff. There have been stats that show that the vast majority of journeys that people do are under 30 miles a day. So most people are commuting relatively short distances on a daily basis. So for the vast majority of people, a Leaf would be just fine as a commuting vehicle. That would easily allow you to do, well, let's be pessimistic and say you could only get 60 miles out of it. Again, that's twice the distance that most commuters travel in a day. So you could quite easily have the Leaf charged up overnight, head out to work and head back without any further thoughts. You just plug the car in when you get home. It becomes a habit. It's just like charging a toothbrush, and it's really not at all difficult. In fact, the really nice thing about owning this car is you get up in the morning and you step out and your car is full. You have a full tank. That's a really nice feeling. You don't have to visit a garage, a filling station to fill up anything like that. You just know, start up every day, your car's got its full range, and that's a really nice feeling. So other factors regarding range are down to, well, first of all, down to your style of driving. I'm driving along here, dual carriageway at 64 miles per hour. I could drive at 70, and ideally I should be driving at 70. It would decrease the battery capacity slightly. It very much, if you hammer this car, and it will respond amazingly well because it has full torque right the way through the range of acceleration, because it's an electric motor, it will respond. It's a fantastic car for overtaking. It's a fantastic car for if you need to get out of a situation. It's just brilliant. You put your foot down and it responds instantly. It's close to a motorbike in that respect. So the way you drive it will have a big bearing. You can put your foot down all the time and eat the battery if you like, and it will behave like a fun car. If you want to drive a little bit more conservatively, then you will increase the range quite significantly. And there are a couple of things that enable you to increase the range besides the driving style. First of all, there's an eco mode, which when you engage it, it just stops the accelerator responding so rapidly to your movements, so it's more of a gentle acceleration. It basically takes the jaggedness out of your driving, and if you put your foot down, it won't give you full power. It will creep slowly upwards, using the momentum of the car and less power to get you to the speed you want to go. Obviously that means that the battery, the energy in the battery is retained quite well. And the other thing which has been improved in this second generation Leaf is the regenerative braking. Regenerative braking is simply it's basically putting energy back into the battery when you brake. And what you actually find is if you put it in regen braking mode, which it's in at the moment, you find that the engine braking, it's the best way of describing it, the engine braking is quite noticeable. So if your observation is good enough, and you're well aware of what's going on ahead, you plan for it, you can do an awful lot of driving without actually touching the foot brake at all, simply by taking your foot off the accelerator. The car decelerates and energy goes back into the battery, and it's very nice. It's a very nice way of driving. It's very nice to see the energy go back in there. So I can see a red light ahead. If I take my foot off, no point in rushing towards a red light, and we're feeding back full energy back into the battery there. 4 blue dots. It's nice to see. So to sum up, range 80% charge, you're looking, in my experience in this current season, you're looking around about 70 miles ish. You do a full charge, anything between 90 and 100 ish miles. I would tend to be conservative. There's a bit of a joke in the community about the range claimed on the dial here, Some people call it the gasometer, I've noticed, in the community. And the general consensus seems to be just keep an eye on the battery level. That's what you need to be concerned about. The range guide, the gasometer, gives you a rough idea, but you don't want to rely on it too much, I don't think. Okay, in terms of charging times, well, there are 3 levels of charging, and the first one is one that you're not likely to use. I use it when we visit family, and that is charging using a normal domestic 13 amp plug. Now, assuming the electrics in the house you're visiting or you live in, if you were to charge at home this way, are up to it, then you can charge using a normal domestic plug. You can just plug the car in. In the case of this car, which has a 3 kilowatt charger, I should say the charger is built into the car. This is you'll get pedants in the community correcting you if you call the thing on the wall, or the thing in a service station, or indeed the cable with the 13 amp plug on the end, if you call that a charger, you'll get a pedant correcting you. The charger is built into the car, and the unit which provides the electricity to the charger is called an EVSE. I think that's electric vehicle servicing equipment. I think so. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it. It'll be down there. So the 13 amp normal domestic plug is one way of doing it. If you charge that way, it can take 8-10 hours, I believe. Like I say, I've only done it when I've visited family, left it overnight, so I haven't really kept an eye on how long it takes. But it's something in the range of that. That would be from empty, which is not a scenario you often have. You should bear that in mind. You talk about charging the car. Well, it's very often you're going to run it right the way down to empty. So quite often you're charging from maybe 10-20%. I think again it's advised that you keep the battery. Ideally, you charge the battery when it gets to 20%. Try not to let it get below, just for the health of the battery. But obviously, circumstances may dictate otherwise. The second level of charging is provides a more rapid charge, and that is in the case of this Leaf, and I think all new Leafs, all the second generation. I think the first was slightly different, but all the new generation of Leafs have 2 charging sockets on them. And I'll show pictures of those to demonstrate. And at the second level, you charge using EVSE. I'm just going to call it charger. It's just easier. After all I've just said, you can have installed. Certainly, currently in the UK, there is a subsidy for installing electric car chargers at home. Now, these charging units are, I happen to know because I've inquired about installing one at a relative's house. They're usually about £600. Now there is a subsidy put aside for installing them. So generally people would have these in a garage, and that allows you to plug in a cable which will, or in my case, I have the socket on the unit rather than a tethered cable. You can have a tethered or an untethered unit. The difference is simply the tethered has the cable fixed into the unit and the other end goes into the car. The untethered just has a socket on the unit. I went down that route to kind of hopefully future-proof it. and then there are two levels of charger you can have. The free one, the one that's free, that's subsidised, is a 16 amp. But you can pay. I paid £100 to upgrade that to a 32 amp. Now I can't make use of the 32 amp actually with this car, but again, I wanted to future-proof it. I also wanted to have the potential to allow visitors to use it who did have the ability to charge at that rate. That offers much faster charging. So that's why I went down that route, future-proofing and for convenience of other potential visitors in future. Now, in terms of the charging speed for these, that second level of charger, you're looking at between 4 and 6 hours in my experience. And that's what I use on a day-to-day basis. The car has a built-in timer which allows you to set up a timing schedule, basically, when it will switch the car on to charge. So what you can do, in our case we have solar PV panels at home, so it makes sense to charge ideally during the daytime. But if you had an economy 7 electricity plan, for instance, and you paid less for your energy at night time, then it would quite probably make sense to charge overnight. And indeed, from a national grid perspective, they would probably prefer you do that because they want to level out electricity demand. So people charging at night, it's good from their point of view. In our case, we have solar PV, so I actually set up the charging timer to come on at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it goes off at 3 in the afternoon. Obviously, you can override that at any time. You can say, right, well, I want it to charge now. So that's not a problem. But ordinarily, that's how I have it set up to. And the charging timer also allows you to say, to preserve the life of the battery by stopping at 80%. So that is indeed what I do normally. And finally, the third level of charger are what's called the rapid chargers. Now these have been installed in lots of locations. There are an increasing number of these being deployed across the country, and it's nice to see that a company has taken the lead in this, a company called Ecotricity, which is one of the UK energy providers. They're quite an enlightened, you would say, energy provider, and they have the head of this company, a guy called Dale Vince, is a big advocate of electric cars, and took the view, quite rightly in my opinion, that unless you had a rapid charging infrastructure in place, it's very difficult to get people interested in the idea of electric cars. So he took the view that, Ecotricity took the view that having the second level chargers in lots of towns, which is what lots of councils have done, unfortunately, they've put lots of second level chargers, the ones that take 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to charge your car. They've installed those in a lot of towns, and I suspect they won't get used much. I may be wrong, but it's not convenient for most people to stop in a place for 4, 5, 6 hours. Really, they're not going to want to do that. If you want to travel somewhere further afield from home, you want to stop for maybe a coffee, a drink, whatever, you don't want to be stopping for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. So the rapid charger, what the rapid chargers will do is give you a charge, an 80% charge from pretty much flat in between, well, in around about half an hour. If you get to a rapid charger with, like I say, 20% of your battery, you're looking about just over 20 minutes, which is ample time to go and get a coffee, go and relieve yourself, and it's very nice actually. It brings a whole sort of more leisurely, less rushed approach to travel, which is quite refreshing. You should try it. It's very nice. So those rapid chargers are a bit of a lifesaver when it comes to longer distances. So when we travel to visit family, for instance, we'd be a bit stuck without those rapid chargers. Indeed, if they didn't exist, I certainly wouldn't have bought an electric car. It's as simple as that. So in that respect, Dale Vince was 100% right. Ecotricity were 100% right. No rapid chargers, no big uptake of electric cars. And all these rapid chargers are available at, I think, possibly all welcome brake services now. I believe that's who they negotiated with. We just went past the services a few minutes ago on the Warwick services on the M40. There's a charger there, so I will be stopping there on the way back from this location. Although I don't need to, I probably will. Right, in terms of starting the thing, there's no key hole, anything like that. It's just electric key like a lot of modern cars have. So I've got that in my pocket, don't need to take it out. All I need to do is press a button on the door, opens the door, and then I can get in. Once in, it's a case of foot on the foot pedal, on the foot brake, press the power button, and the car boots up. There's a foot brake down here on this second edition of the Leaf, rather than, I believe, the first generation of Leafs had a handbrake. The second lot has the foot brake, so that's just you push it down to release, and then we're ready to go. And what I'm going to do is pull into, I'm going to find a rapid charger and well, go and rapid charge. Okay, so when we're ready to go, foot on the foot brake, twiddle the gear knob thing back, pull it back once, that goes into drive mode. I'm going to pull it back a second time, that puts it into regen brake mode, and off we go. Starting to get a little bit darker, the light's fading now. So as I'm going down this steep hill now, we've got it in regen mode, so there's power going back into the battery. Obviously the opposite applies, steeper hills require more battery energy to go up, but that's the payoff. When you're going downhill, you're actually charging the car and increasing the range. So if you could drive only downhill all the time, that would be perfect. With regard to the cost of rapid charging, as it's not done at home, at the moment, the rapid chargers installed by Ecotricity are completely free to use. That's at the moment. That's probably likely to change fairly soon, possibly the start of next year, 2015. According to an interview with Dale Vince of Ecotricity, again Robert Llewellyn conducted the interview. The initial concern was to get the infrastructure in place. It's actually more cost effective to do that than to put in a charging mechanism at the outset. So at the moment those rapid chargers are completely free, which is fantastic. Wow, that torque. Now, when they do start charging for the rapid chargers, it's not likely to be very much to charge up. I can't imagine it being very much. if it were too much, people wouldn't just not use them. There are other, in terms of the Nissan Leaf, there are every Nissan dealership, I believe, well, I think most of them, if not all of them, will have rapid charging facilities. Certainly the electric car specialists, and there are plenty of them around the country, so those are available as well. Obviously they would need to be contacted in advance, and you're reliant on opening hours as well to be able to use those. But at the moment, from my perspective, the Ecotricity electric highway, as they call it, I think, yes, that's the best option for long distance travel, and you can plan in your stops quite easily at the service stations and just stop, rapid charge, have a coffee or not, and off you go. I had this in regen mode. I haven't touched the foot brake there. It's just slowed right down. It's doing 4 miles per hour now. I'm not touching anything control wise. I'm going to have to touch the foot brake to stop by the look of things, because the red light won't change. That's fine. And P for park. So if I'm going to start again, it's just a case of press the foot brake, engage drive mode or regen mode, and off we go. And that'll be now. Okay, so here the electric car charge points are here, and they are not iced. Iced is what we in the community use to refer to somebody who has parked an internal combustion engine vehicle in said parking space. Which is not very helpful when you want to do a rapid charge. However, it has not happened to me yet so far, I'm pleased to report. I know it does happen because people moan about it, so, but so far so good. Okay, so what I do now is pop the hood, charging point hood on the front. That's this button here, which I've pressed. Make our way around to the front. And just here we've got this little point here. Lift that. And then on the left here is a rapid charging point. I'm just going to open that ready. And we come over here. Press charge your vehicle. And put the card just in front, saying please wait, so I can take the card away. And when that gets to that point, we want DC. Now you can set your charge level here by pressing this button, but it defaults to 80%, which is what you want really most of the time. Once it gets to 80%, if it carries on charging, it actually slows down. That's to, again, prolong the life of the battery. So we're going with 80%. We take this cable from here, and that gets inserted in there. That's just a case of, that's kind of like a trigger thing on the back of here. I could do with 2 hands really, so let me just do that. There we go. That's now done. And that will now have a think for a minute. Done all that. Yes, please start. So it goes through this little phase. Initialization. It makes a clicking noise. and in a second it should start whistling, all being well. There we go. So that's telling us we've got 46%. And we're charging. These are the rapid chargers. Good old Ecotricity. And they've got a phone number on the side here, so if you find any problems, it's nice. It's courteous to phone up and report them, although they are notified automatically. Okay.
Electric.
Right, gone and got my coffee. Not drinking it yet. It's not focusing very well. Hang on. Yeah, 60%, 6 minutes. When it's charging, you get these blue lights on the dashboard. Flashes, if it's very low, it flashes one blue light. Sort of medium charge, second blue light starts flashing, and when a third blue light starts flashing and the first two are lit, it's starting to get towards fully charged. So while it's finishing charging, I'm going to have my coffee.